Hey Void, how you doing? So, next one. Continuing my 31 days of horror for this year, and going back to an old favorite for mine. Though apparently had some rocky production issues, and it almost almost pumped the brakes on a great career. But well, I still like the product anyway, even if other people around it didn't end up. But and that is Mimic. 1997, and this was the first American film by Guillermo del Toro. And it almost was his last because of his horrible experience working with Harvey Weinstein. Well, I mean, everyone has a horrible experience working with Harvey Weinstein, but it got to a pretty bad point that he actually was on record saying that two of the worst things of his life happened in the mid 90s. The first was his father being kidnapped. The second was working with working with the Weinsteins, and between the two of them, at least he knew what the kidnappers wanted. Yeesh. Well, that said, I have a soft spot for this film. Now, but could be just because I just enjoy a good giant bug movie. But hey. So, Mimic. We start off with a disease that has run rampant. Strickler's disease has essentially crippled, well, a bunch of children. It's spread by cockroaches and is pretty much flooded through, I think, Manhattan, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Well, in order to combat these, well, they combat this disease, they decide to, well, deal with the predator, the carrier, the cockroaches, by, well, genetically engineering a bug that will go in and kill all the cockroaches, and then die off. They combined a termite and a mantis into what they called the Judas breed, and unleashed it into the sewer. Well, we cut to 3 years later, and hey, Strickler's disease is pretty much eradicated. But some strange things are happening. People are disappearing. The homeless population, or the mole people, as they're affectionately called in this, seem to have been almost completely eradicated also. And, well, there's all the rats, other bugs in the sewers, and in the underground subways just seem to be gone. Well, as the person who created the Judas strain, Dr. Susan Tyler, she has kind of some contacts. A pair of kids that just collect bugs to sell her, and she does it for them just because, hey, they could be selling worse things, keeps them out of trouble. Well, they bring in a very strange bug, and, well, it turns out to be a much bigger version of the Judas. And it's a baby. Well, she's a little concerned and starts going down to the sewers to try to find it out. Along with her partner, Dr. Peter Mann, and they go back and forth a little bit before finally getting Leonard, essentially one of the security cops who mans the subway police, essentially, to go down there with him. Played brilliantly by Charles Dutton. Alright. So. And, well, it turns out the giant bugs are behind the process, and however they have grown to mimic their predator, humans. Essentially, their 4 claws, if put together, look kind of like a humanoid face, and they wrap their wings around them like a cloak, and now suddenly they look like a very long-legged, a very tall but human figure. Added to this mix, living across the street from where these are mostly being found, is Manny, then I believe a Spanish immigrant and his son Shui, who's Shui's is I believe he's on the spectrum. He's very good at identifying people's shoes at a distance and mimicking patterns with a pair of spoons. And his father's just to try to teach him the ways of, well, about shoe shining. But Chewie has been noticing Mr. Funny Shoes, a strange person who seems to be living across the street. However, the bugs identify themselves by a clicking pattern which Chewie is able to duplicate, and he's essentially able to pass among them. But when he goes missing, Manny goes down to the sewers, and well, now everyone's stuck in the sewers, the bugs are all around them, and we have to do something before they spread even further, because that's a lot of eggs. I enjoyed this one, especially since this movie does not shy away from some things that a lot of movies were shying away. Yeah, this movie's not afraid to kill some kids. And not only that, these kids are being eaten right on screen. Well, mostly on screen. A little bit off, but you can hear them screaming. Most movies do not do that, especially back in the 90s, so hats off to you, Mimic. The creature design is pretty good, and watching it again now, a few moments of more dodgy CG up here, but for that era of the 90s, it's really not that bad, and they're only on for a few moments. Usually the Judas bugs are then seem to be like an animatronic or a costume for most of it, but occasionally when they unfurl into the full bug, then that's when they go a bit more CG occasionally. But it's not to a bad degree. It can be a little bit jarring, but really not too bad. The performances are pretty good, and particularly Manny and Chewie. And like I said, Charles S. Dutton is great as the guard in this. So, I'm glad, I know Guillermo del Toro reconciled a little bit with his director's cut, which I actually haven't seen, I just have the theatrical, but it still, for me, is a fun movie. I highly do recommend Mimic. For me, 7 MacGuffins. It's a fun little creature feature. It's not reinventing anything, it's not too fancy overall, but I like me a giant bug movie. Alright, Void. See you later.